This is Hiki with the Lost Samba podcast, and today we're going to speak about one of the most creative, craziest, anarchic, wonderful, everything participants of the Brazilian musical Olympus, namely Jorge Mautner. It's no exaggeration to say that he is the Allen Ginsberg of Brazilian music or Brazilian culture. And for who doesn't know who Allen Ginsberg is, I speak about it in my book.
Boo, light on the couch, you sit smiling at me and stretching your arms, and he couldn't make it.
He is the poet of the hippies. Wonderful, wonderful work. And in common with Mautner is that he is of Jewish origin and he's gay. So they two have both things in common, but they also have their creativity, their libertarian spirit also in common, two wonderful artists. Jorge Mautner's story is a bit different from his generational peers in the Brazilian music industry. His father was an Austrian Jew, his mother was a Christian Croatian, and both escaped the Nazis when they occupied their land, and they came by boat to Brazil. Jorge Mautner was born in Brazil, but the authorities didn't let his mother or the parents embark with their daughter, with Jorge Mautner's older sister, which was very traumatizing, as you can imagine. And this caused his mum to, because of the guilt and because of the horror of the whole story, to go paralytic. She couldn't walk or do anything for 7 years, which were Jorge Mautner's formative years. So instead of being brought up by his mother, he was brought up by a carer who happened to be a babalorixá in Candomblé. So she was a priestess in the Candomblé. So you can imagine that his formative years, like most Brazilian immigrants, were very muddled. Later, his mum got better and remarried a concert violinist, and she moved with her son to São Paulo. Jorge Mautner, he's known for playing the violin in his concerts, completely doesn't match what the music, the kind of samba, bossa nova, but anyway, he's notorious for that, so he learned it from his stepdad. He also went to one of the best schools in São Paulo, the Colégio Marista, where he was a very good student, but he was also precocious, so he began to write books at the age of 15. His first book he finished when he was 15, and this got to the teachers. They read it, they hated it. It had sexual innuendos, gay innuendos also. He was bisexual, right? And they expelled him from the school. It was also very political, very anti-Christian. It was a Christian school, so he was expelled from the school at the age of 16, 17. When he entered the university age, he joined the Communist Party. When the coup came in 64, soon after he was jailed, right, for being a communist, and he auto-exiled. And he went to New York, right, where he worked at UNESCO translating Brazilian books. But because of his looks, he was very good looking and was very clever, very well read, wrote things. He was a very interesting guy, good looking. He ended up in good jobs in the literary and artistic thing. So he worked as a secretary for the poet Robert Lowell, who was one of the main leaders of the anti-Vietnam War campaigns and movement, which was very strong at the time, and a very influential figure. and he also became close friends to the anarchist sociologist, also a pacifist, Paul Goodman.
Think about it. In order to save my kid from being fried, whether what you're doing is right or wrong, it's something.
Who was a huge influence on Jorge Mautner's way of thinking. So he went from being probably a left-wing communist, not really believing it, to be a proper anarchist. He embraced anarchism, and that flowed throughout his career. He was anti-establishment, but he didn't belong to any group, and that in a way that also influenced Caetano Veloso and Gilberto Gil and the whole Tropicalia, right? And why do I mention Tropicalia? Because after the New York phase, he moved to London, where Gilberto Gil and Caetano Veloso were exiled. Whoever thinks that they were suffering there, Caetano Veloso had some depression issues, but the entourage was a huge, never-ending party, and he was like a key participant in this party-like social, very active life that they had, and he became close friends to Gilberto Gil and to Caetano Veloso and to all the other tropicalistas and to their families and everything. He became part of the clique. They made a film together in London, like a crazy film with no, wasn't a success, but it was a film called The Demiurgo. The Demiurge, I don't know how you translate that into English. Back in Brazil, Caetano Veloso and Gilberto Gil, they went on to become big stars, and he kind of stayed in the outskirts, right? He recorded many records, he wrote books, he made films, but he was never, like, none of them were commercial success. We're going to go back to his songs, but he didn't become a star, although Ipanema, where I was fortunate enough to live, he was a constant presence in the beach, in the bars. He and his companion, Nelson Jacobina, they were always at the beach, a place which I also talk about in my book called the Posto Nove, where all the crazies used to go, and he was always there, always. You went to the beach, was almost like a part of the environment. Nelson Jacobina and Jorge Mautner would be there. And before that, but I also talk about in my book, before the Posto Nove, there was a Pier de Ipanema, where also all the hippies and everybody went, and obviously Jorge Mautner was part of that crowd. He also made gigs, right? His gigs were throughout the country, always with the same crowd of kind of crazies, people with long hair, anarchists. He didn't please neither the right nor the left, but all the crazies loved him. He was a real character, very funny. His lyrics were absolutely crazy.
Na Índia todo mundo sabe, é mantinga do faquir, saber tocar a flauta e fazer a cobra subir.
There was one lyric that I remember. He said that the world revolution would begin when a mosquito would go into the release of an aerosol, block the spray of going out, and that's where the world revolution would begin. They were all kind of like this, very, 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 very crazy. Although he wasn't like a star or anything, he was a soft power, you know, not only for his generation, but for generations who came after him. So he was friends, and he influenced the leader of one of the best Brazilian rock bands, Titãs, right? His name is Arnaldo Antunes.
Peste bubônica, câncer, pneumonia, raiva, rubéola, tuberculose, anemia. rancor, cisticircose, cachumba, difteria, encefalite, faringite, gripe, leucemia. E o pulso ainda pulsa. O pulso ainda pulsa.
He was the writer of the best lyrics, and he went on to a solo career. He was also friends, and he influenced Rogério Skylab, who also has his body of work is very similar to Jorge Mautner. He's very off the wall and has very different perspectives. Despite never having done a successful record, I mean, when I mean successful, a blockbuster record that sold millions, his records did sell, but they weren't like huge successes. He has songs that were very famous, that were made very famous. One of them is one of the most beautiful songs Gilberto Gil ever recorded, called O Roxinol.
Joguei no céu o meu anzol pra pescar o sol, mas tudo que eu pesquei foi roxinol. Foi roxinol. Levei-o para casa, tratei da sua asa, ele ficou bom, fez até som. Ling, ling, lang, ling, ling, lang, ling.
Then there is a song that Caetano Veloso recorded called Vampiro, that he wrote when he was like 17 years old, announcing how his career would be, where he says that he is rejected by his love interest, and therefore he's a vampire who sucks the blood of the boys and the girls that he meets. And finally, there's this song that I'm going to play today, Maracatu Atômico. Maracatu is a very obscure rhythm of Pernambuco. The song really doesn't have much of maracatu, but it sounds really good. Atômico, Maracatu Atômico, and this was recorded by Gilberto Gil, became a big success, and it was also recorded more recently in the 90s by Chico Science. In the 90s there was a resurge of Brazilian music, and this was one of the bands that headed that resurge, and it mixed rock with local rhythms, as other artists had done in the 70s, and one of the main exponents was Chico Science, and he recorded Maracatu Atômico with like really distorted heavy metal guitars. It sounded really great, and that was also one of Chico Science's biggest hits. Now, I am not Chico Science, I'm not Gilberto Gil, but I hope you like it even without me being such a famous person. Atrás da arranha-céu tem o céu, tem o céu. Depois tem outro céu sem estrelas. Em cima do guarda-chuva tem a chuva, tem a chuva, que tem gotas tão lindas que até dá vontade de comê-las. Anamae, Anamae. No meio da couve-flor tem a flor, tem a flor, que além de ser uma flor tem sabor. Dentro do porta-luva tem a luva, tem a luva, que alguém de unhas negras e tão afiadas se esqueceu de pôr. Anamae, Anamae, raio da nuvem negra do temporal. Todo quadro negro é todo negro, é todo negro. Escrevo seu nome nele só pra demonstrar o meu apego. Anamaeo, Anamaeo. O bico do beija-flor, beija-flor, beija-flor. E toda a fauna, flora grita de amor. Quem segura o porta-estandarte tem arte, tem arte. E aqui passa com raço eletrônico, maracatu atômico. Anamaeo, Anamaeo. Tiuba, 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 tiuba no bar. Tiuba, 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 tiuba no bar. Anamaeo, Anamaeo. So my quirk with Jorge Mautner is that I actually met him, I've talked to him, and I've been to his house and everything, a long time ago. He had this movement in the early 80s, an anarchist movement that was signed by a lot of famous artists and politicians and ex-freedom fighters even, who had become authors. And at the time I used to do university politics. I was also dissatisfied with the left. It was very kind of political, and the intrigues, and I also speak about this in my book, I have to say. But it was very, very heavy and very political and very hierarchical. And Jorge Mautner came with this movement of the cows, which was anarchism, which nowadays I subscribe to. And he made a poster with all the names who supported his movement. So I got in touch with him, and he answered me, why don't we meet in this and this place? I'm going to do an interview and I'd like you to see it. So I went there. It was of a leftist magazine, and he kind of completely destroyed it. A very clever guy, and he completely reverted the discourse, and he put his views of what the Movimento do Caos was about, and why he was doing the Movimento do Caos, and why he was against the left. And then he invited me to his house. I went to his house, and we had a conversation there, and he invited me, but I had to go. I was still very young. I had to go home. And then he invited me again twice to his house, but then I noticed that there was something more in the air rather than like discussing politics. And I said, you know what, I don't want to do sexual experimentations, and this is, and I never went there again. Although we spoke and everything, I have friends who became good friends of his, and I don't think there was any sexual thing, but I just felt the vibe, and I didn't want to go there. So that's today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next week. Bye.